The wonderful game of football is arguably one of the most popular sports in North America. There are amateur and professional leagues throughout the United States and Canada. It is played by people of all ages, ranging from elementary students in Pop Warner leagues to 30-year-old men who would play for professional organizations. One thing all of these levels of participation have in common is concussions. Concussions are inevitable when playing football. When two bodies are running full speed toward one another, injuries are bound to happen. In this speech, I will talk about three things: how evaluating concussions has changed over the years, how new techniques are used to prevent concussions while playing, and finally, we will wrap up talking about how they have updated equipment to minimize concussions. I believe the number of concussions can be reduced if proper techniques and equipment are used. Evaluating concussions has changed dramatically over the past few decades. An article from 2013, written by Boardroom, talks about a professional football player named Chris Miller. Miller was a Pro Bowl quarterback who played for the Atlanta Falcons and experienced many concussions during his career. After experiencing his first concussion, Miller walked back to the huddle, but it turned out to be the wrong one. He then sat out and returned to the game shortly after. Miller continued to play for a few more years, but then experienced 5 concussions in 14 months. This turned out to be the end of his wonderful career. Policies have changed since Miller's incident. Dr. Robert Cantu talks about a guideline to return to play in an article called Return to Play Guidelines. According to Cantu, any player who experiences concussion symptoms must sit out at least 1 week from any physical activity. This policy extends to different severities of concussions. Any athlete who loses consciousness in their second or later is required to sit out the remainder of the current season, but is eligible to return the following year. To prevent concussions such as these, new techniques are being taught to those who participate in the sport. Pelletier explains in an article from 2006 about how spearing needs to be eliminated from the sport of football. Spearing is the act of leading with the crown of your head to make a tackle. Hitting with the top of your head can compress the spine or allow excess movement of the brain inside the skull. The movement of the brain is what causes a concussion. An article titled How to Tackle in Football explains a new, proper way to tackle while playing. This process of a proper tackle includes 5 steps: heads up, buzz your feet, hip position, the shoot, and rip. All of these steps allow players to properly approach the opponent and tackle with the shoulder and safely take the ball handler to the ground. Using proper technique is only the beginning of preventing concussions. The final step is using new, updated equipment. When football first began, players used thin pads along with leather helmets. These helmets did nothing more than prevent grass from getting in their ears. Today's equipment manufacturers have come up with technology that prevents concussions while playing. An article from May 15, 2015, written by Weller, talks about how Rydell, an equipment manufacturer, launched a piece of technology called Insight. Insight consisted of tiny sensors and helmets that calculated how hard players are being tackled. This new technology has prevented many concussions throughout its existence. Football is a sport that will be continued to play for more years to come, and the injuries that come with it will also proceed. The only thing that can be done is to continue research and develop new technology. This new technology will prevent injuries that hindered the health of athletes in the past. I believe the number of concussions will be reduced if proper technique and equipment is used.